Start with the line everyone keeps circling, "Change is on my agenda. Change for good," said on camera, with Eugene Levy. After a year William himself called the hardest of his life, it was bound to rattle those who equate monarchy with inertia. Add Catherine's quiet rebellion, choosing health over people-pleasing, dialing down appearances while she heals, enforcing a home rulebook that keeps phones off the table and the family nervous system calm, and suddenly commentators are whispering about a part-time king. The fear sits on an old belief, that the crown survives on constant spectacle, that visibility equals legitimacy, and that the late Queen's miraculously steady presence can be replicated only by repeating her schedule. But that reading misses what's actually happening. William is not shrinking the job, he's recalibrating how and when the job touches the public so that visibility converts into value instead of noise. The proof is hiding in plain sight. Earthshot didn't scale by being everywhere, it became credible by being focused, timed, and measurable. 5 categories, a 2030 clock, winners whose solutions can be audited in the real world. That is the operating system he's signaling for the wider institution. Fewer rote cut ribbons, more purpose-built appearances that push outcomes, climate, early years, mental health, homelessness, and pair the theatre with deliverables. He's also tuning the home base because the monarchy's most fragile asset is not a balcony shot, it's the family that stands on it. The modern play is to protect that centre without dropping the public covenant, which is why we see the Wales household set up like a normal one on purpose, school runs honoured, dinner table conversations prioritised, phones for the kids off limits, a cadence that makes space for remission to be relief without recklessness. It looks like retreat to anyone counting handshakes. It looks like resilience planning to anyone counting the years ahead. The 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and work-shy Will's labels float back up every time he declines the treadmill, but the work itself has changed while the metrics haven't. The 1950s equation, volume of engagements equals virtue, ignores a 2020s reality in which one high-trust broadcast can reach more citizens than a fortnight of plaque unveilings, and one well-designed initiative can alter a policy landscape more than a dozen photo calls. That doesn't mean William will ditch the pageantry that binds the nation in ritual, it means his already separating ceremony that pays the country back from costume that reads like cosplay. Expect him to keep what transmits meaning, remembrance, trooping, investitures that center recipients, while toning down the bits that signal self-regard, an instinct even royal traditionalists concede is overdue. The anxiety from commentators, deeply unsettling, risks alienating his subjects, rests on a fear that privacy breeds distance. History suggests the opposite when it's done with discipline. Elizabeth II's success was not only ubiquity, it was sparing words and letting images work. Charles's success as Prince of Wales was not only activism, it was building institutions that outlived the headline. William's register joins those two: fewer words, clearer missions, curated presence. He is not allergic to visibility, he's allergic to scatter. Fold in the human layer and his calculus sharpens. When your wife and your father battle cancer in the same season and you are raising 3 children inside a fishbowl, you learn quickly which forms of attention soothe and which corrode. He has said aloud what most high-pressure parents feel: you can shoulder the job, but family turbulence overwhelms in a way duty never does. That is not an excuse to disappear, it is the reason to guard the household tempo so public service doesn't devour private stability. Catherine's own essaying on the epidemic of disconnection lands here with force. If your national platform is early childhood and social-emotional health, but your home runs on doom scrolling and overexposure, the message collapses. Instead, the Wales model is coherence: what they preach is what they practice, and they're willing to absorb tabloid flack to keep it intact. That is not part-time anything. It is long-term brand integrity. What about the late Queen's mantra of being seen? It still matters, but the way seen works has changed. In an era where one misstep loops forever, visibility must be timed, contextualized, and anchored to outcomes. William's Apple TV Plus conversation looked casual e-scooter across the gravel, pub pint, dog at heel, but the substance was constitutional. A future sovereign saying he will interrogate tradition for fitness of purpose, not reverence alone, and promising edits rather than erasures. It was also a controlled window into the family philosophy: open conversations at home, clear rules, and reassurance without fairy tales when life swerves. Put differently, He used modern media to transmit a sovereign's thesis. Continuity and change are not enemies, they are co-authors. If that unsettles people who prefer their monarchy embalmed, it reassures the majority who want it useful. The other fear, the one no one wants to say too loudly, is that a family-first heir will lose touch. The counterexample sits in the diary. When William stands up, it tends to be for work that touches ordinary life, homelessness pathways that promise housing placements, mental health programs measured by clinical outcomes, Earthshot finalists that cut emissions and create jobs. He has also developed a habit of turning down optics that don't pay back, fewer gala laps, more site visits that feed policy and philanthropy. The rhythm is slower than the old treadmill by design. It leaves oxygen for Catherine's early years centre to seed research, for Earthshot to move pilots into scale, for a Windsor working base to run greener and more human. It also leaves room to absorb the political weather without panic, whether that's stabilizing optics with his father when the rumour mill insists they're not speaking, or keeping the York saga at arm's length without lighting additional fires, or declining to fuel transatlantic grievance economies with reactive statements. Caution reads as absence until you understand it as containment. So no, the part-time king line doesn't fit. A better frame is duty by design, visibility when it multiplies trust, restraint when it preserves family bandwidth, tradition kept when it binds the nation, trimmed when it wastes attention. The crown has always survived by regenerating into something completely different but a bit the same. Charles has been the cautious innovator who guards the frame and practices forgiveness as strategy. William is the optimistic editor who will tighten the script and expect receipts. The two approaches aren't rivals, they are sequential. That is why you saw the recent father and son choreography when whispers of a rift got loud. Not because there are no disagreements, every monarch and heir navigate friction, but because the institution needs the public to see a straight baton line while the private edits are argued in rooms without microphones. That is how the monarchy has done its most consequential work for a century. Calm in the picture, debate in the margins, change introduced in increments that feel like common sense by the time the public notices. If you need a practical benchmark for what William's reign will likely protect versus prune, start here. Protect, constitutional ritual, national moments of mourning and joy, investitures that put honores first, a visible sovereign presence in crisis, the Commonwealth's connective tissue when it still serves both sides. Prune, costume for costume's sake, processions that center royals over recipients, domestic fuss, uniformed napkins, monogram mania, that reads as Marie Antoinette in 4K, diary padding that exhausts staff and bores citizens. Keep the balcony, keep the bugles, keep the sense of something larger than any one person, and pair it with outcomes and a home life that looks like the one most people are trying to build. Phones down at dinner, school gates honored, honesty with children without terror, health prioritized without apology. That combination won't alienate subjects, it will feel like the monarchy learning the language of the century it's in. So let the experts be unsettled if they must. Institutions die when they confuse motion for progress and noise for legitimacy. The Wales blueprint is neither. It's the quiet craft of making sure that when the crown lands on his head, the country sees the same man who has been modeling the job for years, measured, modern, family-anchored, results-driven, and still capable of putting on the velvet when the moment genuinely calls for it. Not part-time, properly timed.